YouTube, it's your boy FPL came in. I'm back here with a brand new video. Today I've got for you my game week review as well as my game week 9 team selection. So let's dive in. Game week 8, here it is. I've managed to get only 41 points, but that's still a good score, on the surface of it. Although Haaland blanked again. There's so much stories to talk about. Absolute mayhem in game week 8. We had the Saka gate. We had the rumors about there is a team leak going to the deadline. There were Son assists being removed. Bunch of dramas. We had Andy Martin going to check Saka's height in the Bournemouth hotel. Now it was absolute crazy madness. And the fact that Saka didn't come on for me and I still managed to retain my rank at 8K. That's a big premium missing from my team, right? Simino came in for 2-pointer. And then I've only had 3 returns, right? I've had Rogers and Salah and Wood. Like, I've been raving about Salah for a minute, and I've been saying that, going to Game Week 8, you got to keep him if you have him. He's not a sell. I said it multiple times. He's a big game player. He loves to play against Chelsea. He loves to play against Arsenal. All these teams is the teams that he likes to play against. Although he didn't have a good start to the season, in terms of ITIS point of view, he still was delivering points. And I knew that he was also going to deliver when it comes to the big games. So luckily, I kept faith and he did deliver the highest scorer in my team, 12 points. Absolutely pleased with him. Now people will be scrambling to get him back in their team. And then we had another hero of the week, Rogers. Absolute beauty of a goal. There was a bit of a deflection, but still, it was a very good strike. And he was going to go and target regardless. I'm kind of surprised they didn't get any bonus points. I think he had 1 yellow, unfortunately. But still, the fact that I've only had 3 returns, I'm pleased with whatever football points I got. And then, of course, lastly, the main man himself, Chris Wood, who I had from game week 1 in my team. If you've been following my channel, I've been raving about him and saying that he's the best 6 point and under million forward in the game. But people are talking about this CEO and this guy and whatnot, right? Come on, Chris Wood, you gotta have him in your team. And then, unfortunately, disappointment of the week, as I said already, Haaland, another blank. That's 3 blanks in a row. Guys, we gotta seriously have uncomfortable conversation about this guy. I mean, what did he do on the pitch that I didn't do sitting at home? The only difference I see between me and Haaland is him doing some cardio and I didn't. It's horrible. Look, I feel like this man is homeless without KDB and Rodri. And the fact that he has his blank 3 games week in a row makes me question if I want to captain him next week. And we'll get into that. Look, overall, 41 points. It was a horror show. The fact that I still got the rank 8K, I'm kind of shocked. So Alhamdulillah, thank God for that, right? Ultimately, look, defense was shocking. The clean sheets are hard to get by. But what did I expect? Chelsea was a tough fixture for Konate. So ultimately, this defense is disappointment, but I'm quite happy with my midfield and my strikers for now. But we'll talk about Haaland getting to the next section. So let's move on to my game week 9 team selection. So at first, we have Sanchez in goal, who's got Newcastle at home. I'm expecting a clean sheet finally. I've gotten him in game week 6 wildcard, and unfortunately, he has yet to keep a clean sheet. And he has made a bunch of individual mistakes in multiple games. Even versus Forest, when they considered to Wood, he made an individual mistake. Even versus Liverpool, when they considered it's all his mistakes. So when he's trying to play from the back, he does give the ball away. And I saw him trying to take on Gakpo versus Liverpool, and he almost gave the ball away as well. So I need him to reduce those mistakes and finally get some bonus points as well as some saves versus Newcastle, who haven't had the actually greatest start to the season. And they did struggle to score versus Brighton. So I'm expecting Newcastle to again struggle versus Chelsea, especially out away. So hopefully Sanchez can finally keep a clean sheet. Let's move on to the defenders now. We got Gabriel, we got Liverpool at home. It's a tough picture on paper, I'll be honest. Same for Konate, who's got Arsenal away. Ultimately, I'm expecting if it's a KG game, I'm expecting a clean sheet, right? Because I thought I could pull out 5 centre backs and play a very defensive minded game and ultimately build the Great Wall of China, right? And I think if they do that, I do have the potential of getting 2 clean sheets and potentially some bonus points as well. So yeah, that's on that. Konate and Gabriel, on paper they look really good, but this is a 1 week that I might struggle. But listen, on long term wise, when you look at them, they're very good for their fixtures. And then we have Lewis, who's got Southampton at home. City have not been great defensively, as you guys saw last week. They didn't keep a clean sheet versus Wolves as well. So look, I think they're conceding versus terrible teams when they shouldn't, and maybe that's because of complacency and the fact that Pep, the way he's playing without Rodri, there's less control now. So he's trying to control too much, and then when he does go forward, he doesn't have anyone to compensate for that. And ultimately, people are just attacking them on counter and getting those goals. And Lewis, he's playing quite attacking still. I mean, pretty much playing Rodgers' position, playing centrally, and getting into those, opposition box. Potentially a goal threat now as well. But unfortunately, he hasn't got that many returns. So I'm expecting hopefully finally a clean sheet as well as an attacking return. Now, enough talking about my defenders. Let's move on to the midfielders. We have King Salah, the Egyptian king, who delivered. I kept faith, and I told everyone to keep faith, but they didn't. They sold him. They disrespected him. Now he's delivered versus top team, and he'll continue to deliver. Another thing to mention: Timber is still out injured. If he doesn't get back before this game starts, I think Zinchenko is going to start, and ultimately Salah is going to cook if Zinchenko plays. And even if my players like the likes of Gabriel or Konate don't keep clean sheets, I still have Salah to, if they do concede and it's a bit more open game, I think Salah can get something as well. So ultimately, I'm expecting either two clean sheets or a return for Salah. So whichever way it goes, hopefully it goes in my favor. And then moving on, the new player, as you guys can see, a new addition to my team, the one player I've been waiting to bring in my team, the main man himself, Cole Palmer. Now, he's got Newcastle at home. It's a great fixture. A lot of people said, oh, be patient with him. He's got tough fixtures. He's got Newcastle, United, Arsenal in the next three. Bring him in game week 12. That's all good and, it sounds good on paper. But one thing you have to understand, you can't always target fixtures and you can't judge every player based on fixtures. Some players are just fixture proof, and some players can pop off in any given game. And Palmer is that type of player. I think that his ceiling is just as high as someone like, say, for example, Mbimo, who's got Ipswich at home, whereas Palmer has Newcastle at home because Palmer is that explosive. Um, and the fact that for me, he might even be a captaincy consideration. So when you have the likes of Palmer, Salah, and Haaland to consider the captaincy around, you don't have to automatically captain Haaland every single week just because of a good fixture. You can always switch around and chase the upside. So now, because of his explosivity, because of his ownership, because of the potential for captaincy, all these reasons why I've actually bought in Palmer for Saka, and ultimately Saka is also injured. There is some rumors that he may start, he may not, and I don't want to play those games. I'm sick and tired of Arteta and Pep playing those mind games. Hence, I didn't go for Saka or Foden. Son was a consideration, but that's too short term. I went for Palmer because of long-term security as well as captaincy potential. Now I've talked about Palmer. I hope he finally returns for me. I was kind of scared to not own him. Now finally I have him in my team. So let's move on. We got Mbimo, who's got Ipswich at home. Another player, a good shot for captaincy. Ipswich has been horrible this season. I mean, look, versus Everton as well as West Ham, they put five past them, and West Ham is terrible. And that's something we need to look at when you're, bringing in players. The likes of Wissa is back now as well. So if you're targeting a differential this week, I'd think about Mbimo as well as Wissa. I think the big differential is Wissa, of course, because Mbimo is quite high on now. But still, I think Mbimo versus Ipswich, as well as a good transfer, as well as a good captaincy pick, in my opinion. And I think he's going to get a big return this game. Moving on, finally, the hero of the week, last game week, is Rodgers, who's got Bournemouth at home. I do have a dilemma in this case, though, whether to start Semenyo or Rodgers. But because Rodgers returned for me last week, I can't disrespect him. I have to show some respect, and I have to play him versus Bournemouth at home. And he does seem to be getting a lot of minutes. That is one concern. He did get 90 minutes again in the Champions League. Now, is he going to get 90 minutes again, or is he going to get early sub? That's another concern. That's where I may lean towards maybe Semenyo because he's a more 90 minutes nailed because he didn't have any Europe games. So that's a bit of an iffy one. I might have to flip a coin for that. But ultimately, I'm leaning towards Rodgers because he seems so critical for that Villa team. He carries the ball so well, takes the shot, creates all the chances. So he's the engine of that team ultimately, right? He's becoming that Palmer that we saw last season. Obviously, less explosivity. I mean, the value that provides is similar to what Palmer did last season, but he doesn't have pens, of course. And then finally, moving on to our strikers, we've got the main man, Haaland, the Earl of Norway, the big disappointment, the man who's homeless without Kevin De Bruyne and Rodri. Now, what do we do with him? He's got Southampton at home. Look, you can't sell him now. I think for the next 2 to 3, he's still a hold. He's got Bournemouth next, and then he's got Brighton, and then he's got Spurs as well as Bournemouth. So these are the 3 next fixtures as well. So I think if till game week 12, I'm going to keep him, and hopefully KDB gets back so that he can get the service. But so far, he hasn't looked too good, and I'm contemplating whether to captain him or not this week. I know there's a lot of talk about triple captaincy. I do have my doubts about that because I did do some research. And if you did tune into the Roundtable podcast, you would have seen that we broke down his stats with and without KDB. And it does seem that when you look at those stats for big chance created, chance conversion, expected goals, expected assists, all of these stats drop down significantly without KDB compared to with KDB. So, for example, this season, I have one stats is that his big chance with KDB in the first 5 games is like 5. Without KDB, 0. His goals with KDB is 10. Without KDB, his goals are 0. In the last 3 games, 3 blanks. So there is no big chance created. There is no goal scored without KDB. And not only that, there is not even expected assist for Haaland either. So he's basically isolated. Now, ultimately, if a player is this isolated and not getting any service and is getting man marked by 2, 3 defenders, like the way Dawson and Wolves did, look, ultimately, he's not gonna get that many returns. So I don't think it's a good captain's shout this week. But personally, if you feel like it's a good shout, ultimately the fixture is there and he could still score because um, Southampton are really poor and they could concede big if they do try to attack City and don't sit back. So listen, there is opportunity, you can go for it. But ultimately, personally, I wouldn't go for it. But again, I already use my triple captain in game week 2. So who am I to say anything, right? So enough talk about Haaland. For now, I have him as a captain. I think because of all this talk about triple captaincy and a lot of people are going to captain him, I might just play the EO again. But I'll think about it hard and long before I do commit to it. Now, ultimately, currently, I do have it on Haaland. Now, let's move on to my big differential of the week. Again, I have Delap, Brentford away. I'm going to play him because the whole reason why I bought him in is to target these fixtures. As much as Brentford has looked good, I think they're quite a poor defense. I don't rate them that highly defensively. Ultimately, they're missing a couple of key pieces. For example, Henry is still out. Look, I think Delap and his team, I think his team is letting him down. I think he's a really good player. He's got the technical ability. He's a clinical finisher. If you do give him a sniff, he's going to score. It's a matter of whether his team can create those quality chances for him to finish. So I'm hoping he gets something. If he does get anything, it's a big boost from our rank, considering I'm in the top 10K. So let's hope so that he gets something. And finally, the main man again, Chris Wood, who's been delivering week in, week out. You have to play him. He's been exceptional. And he should have had like 2 or 3 goals versus Palace. The fact that he missed like 2 easy headers and then he had another, through ball that he couldn't finish. But ultimately, he got a return. Can't complain too much. Look, he's getting all the chances. He's their target man. If you're looking for a 6 million striker, he's the best player to get right now at that price point. And then obviously, moving on to our bench, we have Fabianski, who's got United at home, and got Semenyo at Villa away. We got Burgess, who's another transfer that I did. I took out Mikalenko to bring in Burgess, who's got Brentford away. And then we got Greaves, who also has Brentford away. The key thing to note is Greaves is out for like 2 to 3 weeks with hamstring injury. So Burgess is coming in to replace him. So if you're looking for a 3.9 million defender in the game to who starts, it is Burgess. So if you didn't know, now you know. So I did bring him in because of that. Ultimately, that covers for Greaves not being available. Look, I understand my defense, my defensive in terms of my depth might not be strong, but ultimately I'm expecting Lewis to get minutes. And if worst case Lewis does get benched or he doesn't start, I think Burgess is going to come in and get me a 2-pointer, a 1-pointer, right? I can't complain too much. But ultimately, I have 3 best premium in the game: Salah, Palmer, Haaland, and that sets me up for long term as much as I want. And ultimately, this is the structure that I was looking for around game week 6 and 7. But I couldn't get Palmer because he had Forest and Liverpool, so I wanted to be patient in game week 6 wildcard. And ultimately, look, all I have to do now moving forward is switch my strikers. For example, if Delap has a tough fixture, just switch him up for Raul Jimenez or Strand Larsen. Or if Wood has a tough fixture, I can get Cunha. For example, if Lewis drops out of favor, I can just bring in a Forest defender, Aina Milankovic. I could bring in, for example, United defender like Mazarawi. So there's lots of options that I could do, right? So listen, ultimately, I'm just gonna switch around my budget options and keep the main core of the team this structure. But this structure could change if KDB is not back soon and Haaland is continuously struggling, and then that could be a whole different conversation. But we'll get to that come game week 10/12. So another question I want to cover, guys, is who is the best replacement for Saka if you want to take him out due to his injury doubts and you're sick and tired of Arteta and his mind games. I'd say the way I rank it is Palmer, Son, and Foden. However, if you're looking for short term, I would go for Foden, Son, and then Palmer, because obviously you can take out Foden in game week 12 and bring in Palmer. Whereas if you have Son, you can take him out in game week 12 and bring in Palmer as well. However, the pros and the cons for Son, for example, is he's nailed to start and he has Ipswich at home, but in game week 11, which is a good captain to shout if you want to be a bit of a differential. Whereas Foden is a bit of a punt this week as well as the next couple of weeks. But I hope that answers all the questions, guys. I really appreciate all the support. Make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And see you next week. Peace out.